back to YMT218, Object-Oriented Programming. We are still discussing Chapter 10, and this is the lab session. We have already managed to finish the first question. We coded its requirements. Now we move to the second question. Modify the rectangle class of question 1 by including the cost per meter square or the price per meter square and a method. So we have a private attribute, the cost per meter square or the price per meter square, and then we have a method for calculating the total price. So don't think about a room. We're maybe considering something else other than a room. Okay, so then define, after doing these two things, one method for calculating the total price. We have the price per meter square. We can calculate the area, multiply, and get the total price. Define a main function and instantiate an object, call it a carpet. So, well, now it's clear why we calculate the price. It's a carpet. We calculate the price per meter square. We calculate the total area, then we multiply and get the total price. Allow the user to enter its dimensions. So we speak about the length and the width, and also the cost per meter square, then get the total price using the class methods. So we have some methods in this class we need to define. Now I have copied the rectangle class and I created another file. Okay, I called it rect2. You can do the same. So now what we need to do, so we need to modify it. This is the class we previously created. I was just mistakenly using height instead of length. I fixed the length because we speak about dimensions here. We don't speak about two dimensions, the length and the width, not the height. We don't have any height for something like a carpet. If we are calculating the area, if we want to calculate some certain volume, yeah, maybe in that case. All right. So what do we need to modify? We need to add one more attribute, which is the price per meter square. I'll just put it for simplicity, the price per meter square. Okay, and then this is a private attribute. We need to add it also here, self. Okay, so we need to add price. Okay, I call it like this, per meter square equals price per meter square. Okay, we got it. We need a setter for it. Maybe the user will change his mind or her mind, and later on would like to modify the object as private data. So we need a setter for that. So set the price, let's say per meter square. And in that case, we need to receive two things: self by default, the reference of the instance itself, and we need to receive the price that we need to assign. So now in that case, I'll assign this I just created earlier. I need self. Okay, self. The attribute I just created, price per meter square, equals to price I just used here as a parameter. So we receive an argument, we assign it to this. Do we need to have a getter for the price per meter square? You can add it if you want. Now, just to save our time, I'm not going to add it. You can add it. How to do it? Def get price per meter square. Just receive self as an argument, as a parameter, and then a parameter for an argument. Then return the price per meter square, and that's it. So self, return self dot price per meter square. All right, now get area is fine, but what we need to do, we need a new method, def get total price. Okay, total price, how can we calculate it? We need to receive self only, we don't need any other thing. Now, in order for us to calculate the total price, imagine you have the price per meter square, you can calculate the total area, then you can multiply the total area times the price per meter square. That is exactly the total price. So return, what are we going to return? Self. Now I need to access to this method, so I need to use self also, because which method are we going to access? I have to specify self get area, and in that case I will receive the current area, like the length times the width, and then I'll multiply it by what? By self dot the price per meter square. okay, parameter square. And that's the total price in this case. Whatever the currency is, it doesn't matter. So remember that we added one new attribute. So now the second part of the question is telling us create a function main, a function that, because we don't have exactly the main method, so we create any main method and then we set up our requirements. Now let's define def. I need to save this because if I don't save it, my program wouldn't run. Okay, so I just, there is okay, seems no problem. Okay, let me just save. Okay, save. Right, now here def main, and in this main, what are we going to do now? Look, I discussed this one briefly earlier and now I'll discuss it again. Now when we have something like this, default arguments, we set the default values for these parameters. No, now I have to set this one, otherwise yes, it would give me the problem that I had just seen. Now I have to say it again. Yeah, good. This one is a very good note that I will tell you. Now, if you are writing a function in Python and you want to set default argument, the order is like this. The general argument with no values, with no default values, then the arguments with default values. So what happened? I tried to save and I thought I placed the default value for this one also. So it was telling me that there is a problem here. Why? Because this one was not set to 0 or to any value. So it has no default value and it is next to two attributes with default value or two parameters with default value. So the order is incorrect in this case, and that's why it gives me warning. Like I have to place either default value for this one or I have to move it before these two. So this was the idea. It's good that we faced it so that I could explain it to you. Now let's get back to the main. So in this main, I have two ways. I can ask the user to enter the dimensions directly. So what I'm going to do, I can say length, okay, equals, remember this one could be a float, right? So in that case, float, and then we use the input function. Why? Because the input function will allow us to receive a string from the user, even if it is numeric. So if the user enters a number, it will be considered as a string, so we are casting it to get the real number. In that case, I'll tell the user, enter the length of your carpet. Okay, and I'll just repeat the same process. I don't want to type it all over again. I'll just copy and paste again one more time. Now we have, because we have three different attributes, so we have the width. We need to do that for the width, and we have the price per meter square. So let me call it price only. I don't want to call it per meter square. You can customize it the way you like. Into the price per meter square of your carpet. Okay. So now in order for you to get the total price, we can print, and print what? Now two things we have to do. We have to import, because I saved this one in a file, rect2, so I have to import rect2 as, let's say, R. And now the name of the class inside, is rectangle. So now we use R to access rectangle. Now before printing anything, we didn't instantiate. So I said we need to do two things. First one, importing the file or the module where we saved our class. Then the second thing we need to do is the is exactly instantiating the instance of the class. So the instance was requested, the instance requested from us was called carpet. So carpet equal to r dot rectangle. I don't want to make any typo. Okay, rectangle. So in that case, what are we going to instantiate? What is the values that we are supposed to provide these values? So you can use these values to override the default values provided by 000 with and price. So it will override these values here. And as you know, self is automatic. We don't interfere with this reference. It's automatically assigned by the computer itself. So now what happens? We have already defined, instantiated this instance, and then we pass the arguments that we are supposed to pass, and then we need to print the total price. So the total price is, and we need to do like this. Total price, we just calculated here. We created our own method to do it, get total price. So we multiplied the area times the price per meter square. So all we need to do now is just use the object that we created, carpet dot get total price, and that's it. Let me just double check if it is written correctly. Yes, total price. Yeah. So we need to get out of the main and call it, and that will do actually. Let me just run. So we need to enter the length of the carpet, let's say 10 meters, and the width, let's say 7 meters, and the price per meter, think about the currency and multiply, let's say 30, oh 30 is too expensive, 25 for example. Oh, I have a problem. Okay, rect, oh, for sure. I said earlier I don't want to make any typo. Well, this is usual with me. Rect, not rect. Okay, rect. So we can try again. So here what we need to do again, we said 10, 7, and let's say 20. 20 is enough per meter squared. Think about the currency in your own whatever dimension or maybe region that you're living at. Okay, now think this is the price, the total price. You can use the format method so that you can format it the way you like. You can insert, let's say, as dollar or whatever the currency that you have, and that's the way you can run it. Before I end this video, I have a very short question here. I'm not going to answer it now. I'll answer it later on, but go through it. Please check. Is it possible to create a Python class without using the init, the initializer method? Is it possible? I will give you the answer. Yes, it's possible. If yes, why do we need to use it? So the second part, I'm not going to answer it. Try to do your research and find what's the reason we usually use the initializer. It's a constructor similar to the constructor we use in other languages. And if we can give it up, why are we going to use it? What's the point? So think about this part. And then this is the task that you are supposed to do. If we can create a class without init, try to do this. For example, the first one or the second one without the initializer, and see how things go. All right, that's it for this session. Until our next session. Actually, this chapter is quite simple. We have another one for inheritance. We will have more detailed questions about classes. Until then, have a good time. Goodbye.